Anglo-Zulu War. Analysis of the historical confrontation. Historical context and preconditions for the conflict. In the second half of the 19th century, Southern Africa became an arena of intense struggle between various political forces. The discovery of diamond deposits in 1867 significantly changed the geopolitical situation in the region. The British Empire, seeing an opportunity to expand its territories and gain access to natural resources, began actively strengthening its positions in the region. The key factor was the conflict of interests between British colonizers, Dutch Boers, and the indigenous population led by the Zulu state. The annexation of the Transvaal Republic in 1877 became an important stage in enhancing British influence, which inevitably led to a clash with the Zulu kingdom. Characteristics of the military campaign. British troops, equipped with modern firearms and artillery, underestimated the combat capability of the Zulu warriors. However, the first weeks of the war showed that traditional tactics and strategies could be effective even against a technologically superior opponent. The Battle of Isandlwana became a vivid example of how numerical superiority and knowledge of the terrain can compensate for the lack of modern weapons. The Zulus used the horns of the buffalo tactic, where the main forces surrounded the enemy from the flanks, creating an effective encirclement. This allowed them to win one of the most significant victories over European troops in the history of colonial wars. Tactics and strategy of the side's Zulu command demonstrated a high level of organization and discipline. Warriors underwent rigorous training, which allowed them to perform complex maneuvers on the battlefield. However, the limitation in firearms became increasingly noticeable as the British troops advanced. The British, after initial failures, revised their tactics. They began using more defensive methods of warfare, creating fortified camps and using massed artillery fire. Reconnaissance work also played an important role in preventing surprise attacks. Role of personalities. In the course of the war, King Cetshwayo proved himself as an outstanding statesman, striving to preserve the independence of his state. His attempts to establish peace negotiations with the British show his desire to minimize human losses among the population. On the other hand, Sir Henry Frere's adventurous approach significantly complicated the situation for the British government. His actions without coordination with the metropolis led to serious diplomatic and military consequences. Consequences of the war and its impact on regional history. The British victory in the 1879 war marked the beginning of the end of Zulu state independence. Although formally King Cetshwayo regained power in 1883, the real political situation had radically changed. The British administration established control over the economic resources of the region, which contributed to the development of the diamond mining industry. For the indigenous population, this became a period of radical changes in social and economic spheres. Many traditional governance structures were destroyed, leading to internal conflicts and social instability. Military lessons and their significance. The Anglo-Zulu War became an important stage in the development of military art. It showed, 1. The need to adapt to the peculiarities of the theater of military operations. 2. The importance of reconnaissance work. 3. The role of troop morale in asymmetric conflicts. 4. The effectiveness of combined use of various types of weapons. These lessons were taken into account in subsequent military campaigns of the British Army, influencing the development of military strategy and tactics as a whole. Significance of the war in the context of world history. The Anglo-Zulu War is a vivid example of colonial conflicts of the 19th century. It demonstrates the complexity of relations between metropolises and colonies, as well as contradictions between traditional societies and modernization processes. From the point of view of the development of international relations, this war emphasized the need for a more responsible approach to the management of colonial territories. The scandal around the early stages of the campaign forced the British government to review methods of colonial policy. Cultural heritage and memory of the war. The events of 1879 continue to interest researchers and the public. They have found reflection in literature, cinema, and other forms of art. The memory of the heroic resistance of the Zulus remains an important element of the cultural identity of modern South Africa. It is important to note that the war became a symbol of the struggle for justice and freedom for many generations of Africans. It showed that even in the face of a technologically superior opponent, courage and bravery worthy of admiration can be displayed. Conclusion: the Anglo-Zulu War represents a complex historical phenomenon with many facets and interpretations. It was caused by the British Empire's desire to expand its territories and gain control over the rich natural resources of southern Africa. At the same time, the indigenous population, despite all difficulties, showed amazing courage and organization in defending their homeland. The history of this war teaches us important lessons about the necessity of respectful attitude towards other cultures and traditions, about the importance of dialogue instead of confrontation, and that technological superiority alone does not guarantee success in military conflicts.